Mangwanani Mwalelepo Fukenjani Kleklas Vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You are joined by Ashwin Berry and Glenn Rashupura, ready to engage with the content.
Good morning, Ashwin. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. How's it going?
It's a beautiful Wednesday morning.
Yes, it is.
Well, getting into what you can expect in today's show. Billions pledged for green development at Africa climate talks. 2 military officers arrested in Congo for leading protests that killed 43 people. World losing high-stakes fight against alien species. We'll also be crossing over to South Africa, speaking to Ari Hokart, bringing us the latest news over there. Do stay tuned.
Neopaints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neopaints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neopaints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
Let's dive straight into the top stories. Now, invasive species that wreck crops, ravage forests, spread disease and upend ecosystems are spreading ever faster across the globe, and humanity has not been able to stem the tide, a major scientific assessment said on Monday. The failure is costing well over $400 billion a year in damages and lost income, the equivalent to the GDP of Denmark or Thailand, and that is likely a gross underestimation according to the Intergovernmental Science Advisory Panel for the UN Convention on Biodiversity. From water hyacinth choking Lake Victoria in East Africa to rat and brown snakes wiping out bird species in the Pacific to mosquitoes exposing new regions to Zika, yellow fever, dengue and other diseases, the report catalogued more than 37,000 so-called alien species that have taken root, often literally far from their places of origin.
Now, billions pledged for green development at Africa climate talks. The UAE pledged $4.5 billion in clean energy investments in Africa on Tuesday at a landmark climate summit aimed to showcase the continent's potential as a green powerhouse. Kenyan President William Ruto has sought to use the Africa Climate Summit in Nairobi to shift the narrative on the region, presenting the clean energy transition as a unique opportunity for Africa if it can attract the financing to realize its potential. And on Tuesday, the conference saw its most significant pledge so far, with $4.5 billion announced by the United Arab Emirates, which will also host the COP28 summit in Dubai in November to December. Now, Sultan Al Jaber, who heads the UAE's national oil company, ADNOC, and government-owned renewable energy company, Masdar, said the investment would jumpstart a pipeline of bankable clean energy projects in this very important continent. Najaba, who is also president of the COP28 Climate Summit, said a consortium including Masdar would help develop 15 gigawatts of clean power by 2030.
Now, swinging over to the DRC, 2 high-ranking military officers in northeast Congo were arrested on Monday for taking part in a crackdown on protests last week that left 43 people dead and another 56 severely injured, authorities said. Interior Minister Peter Kazadi said police arrested commanders Mike Bikombe and Donat Mawili, who respectively headed the Republican Guard unit and the Congolese Armed Forces Regiment in Goma, the eastern city where the violence unfolded. Defense and security forces in the Central African nation used lethal force last Wednesday to repress planned anti-UN protests in the city. A government-led delegation arrived in Goma on Monday to hold hearings and other proceedings to establish responsibility, the Interior Minister said.
In our next story, the conservation non-profit organization African Parks has announced plans to free 2,000 southern white rhinos that are currently confined at Platinum Rhino, the world's largest rhino farm in South Africa. The NGO made the announcement after buying the 7,800-hectare rhino breeding farm, which is in the Northwest Province and borders Botswana. The farm currently has 2,000 southern white rhino. African Parks has purchased the world's largest captive rhino breeding operation in a bid to rescue and rewild the rhino to safe and well-managed protected areas across Africa, the organization said in a statement on Monday. The rewilding project, which will run more than 10 years, will be one of the largest rewilding projects ever undertaken in Africa. The organization also said that it would end rhino breeding activities at the farm. It added that the rewilding of the rhinos would not only free them from captivity, but also secure the future of the endangered species by protecting them from poaching. African Parks secured emergency funding to buy the financially struggling rhino farm after its owner, John Humer, put it up for sale in April. He has been hailed as a conservationist, but also faced criticism for advocating for trade in rhino horn, which he said was necessary to shield his rhinos from poaching and raise funds to sustain the farm. Now, some Humer family members told the UK's Guardian newspaper that the farm, which is licensed to trim rhino horns, cuts them but does not sell them on.
And in the last of our top stories, Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos, on Monday began the first of commercial operations for its Blue Rail Line project. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu joined fellow Lagosians and state officials in celebrating the official launch of the commercial operations for the Lagos Blue Line Rail. The long-awaited commencement date, which had been postponed multiple times, is expected to provide significant relief to the people of Lagos. The rail system is projected to serve a daily ridership of at least 250,000 individuals, bringing substantial reductions in travel time along the Mount 2 Marina corridor within the state. That brings us to the end of our top stories on Africa Good Morning. After the break, we swing over to Adi Hokat as he brings us the latest news stories from South Africa.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
Somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouthwatering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
Yes, a very good morning to everyone. Yes, making headlines in South Africa at the moment. The petrol price and diesel price are a lot more expensive, and it is not good for the consumer in South Africa. And it is a massive increase for both diesel, petrol, and paraffin. And that was announced by the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy. So what's happening from today is that the petrol price is up by R1.71, and the diesel price up by R2.76. That is a massive jump for diesel, and the paraffin also up by R2.78. Paraffin also, it's underestimated how many people use paraffin in South Africa. Almost 9 million South Africans use paraffin as their source of energy. So what it will mean at the petrol pump for us, in the man in the street, will be that if you on the inland, it will be R24.54 for a litre of petrol. At the coast where I live, it is R23.42, but still extremely expensive, and diesel will be R23.28. Again, the reasons, as always, is because of the rand-dollar fluctuation and the rand not doing well against the US dollar, and then also the price of Brent crude oil. That also went up from roughly 75 US dollars up to 85 US dollars in the time frame where this was evaluated. So not good news for the South Africans, that many of the South Africans use taxis, and transport costs also go up. So what you pay for in the shops for the needy stuff and what we need every day from the shops will go up quite a bit as well. And I continue with the news in South Africa. It is load shedding that will continue to make news. The news now is that there is load shedding schedule 6 and level 6, and that is quite a big disruption for everyone. Where I live, we had load shedding every day for the last 5-6 days from, for instance, 6 to 8 p.m. Very important time of the day, and through the day many times as well, 2 hours at a time. So the reason for it at the moment is that the Letaba unit and the Matla units, they both needed to shut down for urgent repairs, and that put pressure on the system for Eskom. Also, there is another case related to Eskom that is going on in the courts. It is the Kusile Power Station fraud case, and the man that is accused there is Matsela Koko. He was the CEO about 5-7 years ago of Eskom, and under his watch there's accusations of fraud to the account of 2.2 billion South African rand at the Kusile Power Station. That's with tenders and also people that was recruited to do work. So that will be ongoing and continue, and so that is in the court at the moment. Then also ratepayers in KwaZulu-Natal, they're not happy, they're pushing back. It's the first time we've seen that in South Africa. The Westville Ratepayers Association in the eThekwini area in Durban, when that is KwaZulu-Natal, they said they're not going to pay their rates and taxes this month. They're going to hold back 1.2 million. They say that's because of high tariffs and also bad service. And so the increase in tariffs was 21.9%, so it's a big increase. And to close off today's South African news, it's exciting news related to the Rugby World Cup. Everybody in South Africa getting ready for the Rugby World Cup in France. That's because South Africa defending their title. A tough pool that South Africa play in. They will play on Sunday, this coming Sunday, their first game against Scotland. They also need to play Ireland, and so they need to go through beating at least both of them to go through to the quarterfinals. And the quarterfinals also going to be quite difficult there. It might be or will be one of France or New Zealand waiting. So it's a tough draw for South Africa, but they've got a good team and they can make it. So all of us here in South Africa proud of the Springbok rugby team and proud of Siya Kolisi again back on the field, being healthy and being strong. And he's leading South Africa in their quest to defend their title they won in 2019 in Japan. So that's the South African news at the moment. Great day, brilliant day for everybody. Goodbye.
Let's head into the economic news on Africa. Good morning. African countries should move away from primarily agriculture-based economies to light industries, less capital-intensive industrial subsectors such as food processing, textiles, consumer goods, vehicles and machinery if they are to manage to service their debts, a conference has heard. They should also stay away from corporate loan sharks as their debt spirals out of control, mainly because of the slow pace at which a G20 framework to restructure debt is being implemented. African countries gathered for a conference on debt and development last week to compare their different fiscal positions and find common solutions. Some have it worse than others, but few African countries have it good. So far, Zambia, Ethiopia, Chad, and most recently Ghana have applied for relief from international creditors. Kenya is likely to follow after the strain on its external debt increased in 2022 as a result of the U.S. tightening its monetary policy as well as Russia's invasion of Ukraine. African Forum and Network on Debt and Development Executive Director Jason Braganza told News 24 the situation is being made worse by the slow progress in renegotiating with creditors and by the advice given to governments by their development partners about continuous borrowing. Most African countries owe money to the Paris Club, a group of officials from major creditor countries, including the UK, the US, Australia, Austria, Belgium, Canada, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, and Switzerland. They also owe China, the biggest bilateral lender, over 1.3 trillion rand as of 2020.
Gas Tech Nigeria can boost gas output to more than 5 BCF a day by 2030, the minister says. Nigeria has sufficient natural gas reserves and can increase its production to more than 5 billion cubic feet per day by 2030. Ekpo, Nigeria's Minister of State for Gas, told the Gas Tech conference on Tuesday in Singapore. In Nigeria, it has been declared a decade of gas from 2020 to 2030. So by 2030, it will get to 5.5 billion cubic feet on a daily production, 57 billion cubic meters a year, Ekpo said, adding that there were funds available to finance expansion without elaborating. Nigeria's gas output declined by nearly 11% from the previous year to 40.4 BCM in 2022, down from over 49 BCM a year in 2019 and 2020, according to industry body, the Energy Institute. Now, the decline in output resulted in lower exports of liquefied natural gas LNG, which dropped by 16% to 19.6 BCM last year. The Institute's data shows, giving Nigeria less than a 4% share in global LNG exports.
All right, those have been our economic news stories. We're going to dive straight into the economic indicators just before Ari comes back with the sport.
Hello and welcome to today's Sports Rep Show.
I am your host, Jesse Jackson Kauraifa. In replay, Namibia, who had won the toss for the first time on this tour.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with tennis news, both on the WTA for women's and
eTicket, your online ticket solution for events and event marketing, bringing you ease of mind and making sure that your event gets out there. For more information, contact events@nhh.com.na.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, and starting off with tennis news first. The US Open continues its week 2 and it is getting closer to the quarterfinals for the men and the women at Flushing Meadows in New York. News from the men's side, the number 3 seed Daniel Medvedev, he safely through. He beat Alex de Minaur of Australia, and that was 2-6, 6-4, 6-1 and 6-2 to advance to the quarterfinals. A good win for number 12 seed, that is Alexander Zverev of Germany, and he beat Yannick Sinner, and he beat him in 5 sets, and that is a high seed that is out in the tournament, and it is Alexander Zverev will now play number 1 seed Carlos Alcaraz in the quarterfinals. Tough game for Alexander Zverev, and it is Carlos Alcaraz of Spain that's number 1 seed in this tournament. In the women's side of the draw, it is South Africa or African hopes that unfortunately lost. It is Ons Shabir of Tunisia. She's out. She lost in the round of 16, and she lost to China's Qinwen Cheng 6-2 and 6-4. So she's out of the tournament. A very comfortable win for number 17 seed Madison Keys. She played against a countrywoman from America, that is Jessica Pegula, and she beat her 6-1 and 6-3. And it was a surprise how big the win was. And it is a number 6 seed Coco Gauff. She's next to play. She'll play in the quarterfinals. She plays against Yelena Ostapenko. She's number 20 seed. That's significant because it is Ostapenko that beat Iga Swiatek, the number 1 seed. So Coco Gauff, she's got the hopes of the USA now on her shoulders in the women's side of the draw. Moving on to soccer news, and it is news from Brazil, is that the Brazilian national team, they dropped their winger. His name is Anthony. He currently plays for Manchester United. He's a new signing for them, and he's 23 years old. And they dropped him because of abuse allegation by his former girlfriend, and it's currently being investigated by the police of Sao Paulo. So Brazil said that they're going to drop him. It will be interesting to see what Manchester United will do in this case. Also, 2 players from England had to withdraw because of injuries. It is Jack Grealish and also Trent Alexander-Arnold. They both withdrew of the England squad. From the England squad, they play Ukraine and Scotland. That is in friendly games. And it was Grealish that was injured in the last game for Manchester City against Fulham. And it's also Trent Alexander-Arnold that went off with a hamstring injury for Liverpool in the last game. And also more soccer news, it is Manchester United defender Eric Bailly that decided he will leave Manchester United. He's going to play in the Turkish league. He's going to play for Besiktas. And concluding today's international sports news, it is golf news. It's the much anticipated Ryder Cup that's going to start in 3 weeks' time. It's going to start on the 29th of September in Rome. That's a team competition, the best of Europe in the pro golf playing against the best of the United States. 12 members on each side, and the last one that was played, it was the USA that won in the United States. This time it's being played in Rome. Big news is that the captain of the Europe team, Luke Donald, he announced his team, and there were 6 players that was wild card picks, as they call him. It was the decision of Luke Donald to pick them. And one surprise was Ludwig Aberg. He is from Sweden. He is 23 years old, his first year as a pro, and he won this last weekend. He won the European Masters in Switzerland. So he is in the team. He joins Tommy Fleetwood, also Sepp Straka, and the experienced Justin Rose that was picked by Luke Donald. Also the experienced Shane Lowry and Nikolai Højgaard. Already automatically in the team because of previous performances was a very experienced Rory McIlroy, also John Rahm and Victor Hovland. That will be the backbone of the European team. And also in the team is Tyrrell Hatton, Matthew Fitzpatrick and Robert McIntyre. That's the international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day. Goodbye.
We are so excited to be kickstarting your morning with the entertainment.
Everything was happening during this past weekend.
Yes.
Exciting news. Wow, no, she was killing it already.
In my opinion, I don't see anything wrong with him serving the full term.
As well as keeping you informed on the issues that you need to know happening in and around our country.
Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning. Let's head into the highlights from this morning's broadcast. World losing high-stakes fight against alien species. Billions pledged for green development at Africa climate talks. 2 military officers arrested in Congo for leading protests that killed 43 people. Move away from agriculture to manufacturing if you want to survive, public debt experts tell Africa.
And with that, we've come to the end of our broadcast. Do remember that you can catch Africa Good Morning tomorrow, same time, same place. From me, Glenora Shipura.
And me, Ashwin Berry. Swera Jahanaka.